Number 10. Kevin Poulsen. How do you become the very first person in the United States history to be banned from the internet? Well, you gotta be Kevin Poulsen, also known as Dark Dante. His thing was hacking phone lines during the 80s and 90s, which he became particularly famous for when he hacked into a Los Angeles radio station to be absolutely certain that he would be the 102nd caller and win a Porsche. Eventually, the FBI took notice of his shenanigans and he was on the run. But as with all good villains, even while in hiding, he would continue to be very irritating. Years later, when he was featured on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, the station's phone lines mysteriously fell. He was later caught and served 5 years in prison, with a 3-year ban from the internet. Funnily enough, he apparently had his share of fun, and is now done with that life. He currently works as a writer for the magazine Wired. Number 9. Kristina Svechinskaya. It doesn't get better than being known as the world's sexiest computer hacker. The Russian hacker Kristina Svechinskaya, who spent time as a money mule for other hackers, is famous for her involvement in a plot to steal from several US and British banks. She used multiple Trojan horse bugs to attack hundreds of accounts, opening up at least 5. From which about $35,000 was stolen. Together with the other hackers, they managed to steal a total of $3 million. She was set to go to jail for a total of 40 years, 30 years for the theft and 10 for suspected passport forgery. But she managed to avoid serving time altogether by signing a personal reconnaissance bond and a $25,000 bail. Her feats will soon be recognized later this year in a Russian feature named Botnet that is soon to be released. Number 8. Jonathan James. Jonathan James' story is a classic one. At the ripe age of only 15, he hacked into networks owned by Bell South, Miami-Dade, the US Department of Defense, and of course NASA, the last being the most impressive, and, well, destructive. He ended up downloading enough source code to learn how the ISS operated. That information is worth roughly $1.7 million. NASA would have to shut down their network for 3 entire weeks to investigate the breach, costing them roughly $41,000. After serving time in prison, he was implicated in a large string of attacks on multiple large companies in 2007. Even though he denied any involvement, there was of course an investigation. Despite convincing many officials that he was innocent in 2008, he soon after committed suicide, likely because it looked like he would have been blamed for several crimes that he may have not committed. Number 7. Gary McKinnon. How much damage can one lone computer hacker do? Hacker Gary McKinnon showed us when he broke into the US military's computer systems. When he first began his hacking career, he claimed his reason for hacking the US military and NASA was to find and uncover UFO files. Honorable as his intentions may have been, he of course deleted a few files while in the system. He also left a calling card reading, "Your security is crap." And perhaps one of the biggest oopsies of all time, the files he deleted caused over 2,000 US military computers to shut down for a full 24 hours. But he wasn't done yet. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks, he deleted weapon logs at a US naval base, stopping munition supply deliveries to the Navy's Atlantic Fleet, potentially killing dozens of soldiers who were left without ammunition. Number 6. Albert Gonzalez. If you thought all your online accounts were perfectly safe, think again. Not even the largest of online banks with their seemingly top-notch security were safe from Albert Gonzalez. Over the years of 2005, 2006, and 2007, he managed to steal around 170 million debit, credit, and ATM card numbers using a series of sniffers that could track and log digital traffic. He would then end up reselling the information for an unknown amount of money. But we know it must have been quite a bit, because he later throws himself a $75,000 birthday party. But you can't go about flaunting your ill-gotten wealth for too long before being caught. After several trials across 2008 and 2009, he would eventually be arrested in 2010, and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. He would later become famous for his efforts on episode 40 of CNBC's show, American Greed. Number 5. Jeanson James Anchetta. Why spend your time hacking into computers and businesses one by one, when you can create an army of computers to do it for you? Jeanson James Anchetta managed this feat. He managed to hijack 500,000 computers in 2004 using a virus called RxBot, and used them to take down whatever site he pleased. He actually opened up and advertised his services, and for a price he could take down any site you wanted. He had everything you would expect an online service to have: bot rentals, competitive pricing, and advice on the number of bots that would be needed to take down a certain site. He was caught not long afterwards in a sting operation named Operation Bot Roast, involving a client that ended up becoming an undercover agent. He would lose the $58,000 his illegal business had earned him, and spent a total of 5 years in prison. Number 4. Albert Atto. For nearly 4 years, Albert Atto made a nice living by siphoning money from the United States Department of Education's petty cash accounts. Atto billed the account time and time again for small amounts over 3 years. The thing is, the Department of Education received all of the account statements, including the amount billed by Atto. In fact, it was stated that a cursory examination would have quickly found the odd charges. This happened for years before someone asked, "Where the hell is all this money going?" After that, it did not take long for him to be caught, but by then he had siphoned a respectable $644,000 from the account. He would also give access to the account to other people to help them pay student loans. For all this, he was only imprisoned for a year, with 2 years probation. Number 3. Astra. When it comes to illegal weapon information, you can't beat the unnamed 58-year-old Greek mathematician known only as Astra. For roughly 6 years, Astra spent his days hacking France's Dassault military group, stealing all sorts of information like weapon technology and 3D modeling software. He would then sell all this to his clients in countries in the Middle East, Brazil, and South Africa. The value of the information he stole is estimated to be worth roughly $250 to $360 million. So a manhunt was launched and Astra was finally captured in Athens in 2008, and sentenced to a jail time of 6 years. The length and the cost of the intrusions did prompt European companies and military to tighten up security, probably to stop other old Greek men from stealing more weapon secrets. Number 2. Robert Morris. When it comes to the greatest firsts ever, it's hard to beat Robert Morris. Morris is known as the creator of the very first widely spread internet worm in 1988, and is the very first person to be persecuted under the new Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Originally designed to help him estimate the size of the internet, the Morris worm had one major flaw in its code. The worm was designed to copy itself every so often, to stop computers from removing it. But it actually did this too often, quickly flooding system loads and damaging hundreds of PCs and servers. The money needed to remove the bug from systems was pretty significant, and it's estimated that because of the Morris worm, roughly 10% of the internet was down for a time, causing losses anywhere from $10,000 to a possible $10 million. And keep in mind, this happened quite a while ago. If that happened today, the losses would be astronomical. Luckily for Morris, he convinced the police that it was a mistake, and managed to get off with only 3 years probation, community service, and a fine of $10,000. Number 1. Kevin Mitnick. Sometimes cybercriminals settle down on the straight and narrow, but not of course before becoming the most wanted computer criminal in US history. Kevin Mitnick's feats would also be featured in a total of 2 films. He started by hacking digital equipment corporations, earning him a year in prison and 3 years of supervised release. But of course, not long before his time would end, he would disappear and begin his famous 2.5-year hacking spree. His list is extensive, but includes hacking targets in the national defense and stealing multiple corporate secrets. Again, he would be caught and ended up serving 5 years in prison. Having had his fun with computer hacking, he would soon become a public speaker and operate his own company, Mitnick Security Consulting. In 2002, he would write The Art of Deception, explaining how he didn't use hacking software or technology, but rather manipulated people into giving him the codes and passwords he needed.